Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Adam Burke from BangTheBook.com coming to you with my Friday Football Frenzy video. You already know the two games coming up here this weekend. NFC Championship Game, AFC Championship Game, Rams versus Saints, Patriots versus Chiefs. I'll talk about what's going on out there in the betting market, give you my thoughts on the side and total for both games, and then some alternative ways of betting these two NFL playoff matchups. Over at BangTheBook.com, there's so much that we're proud of right now. A lot of great content, a lot of great things being done. We've added some new writers to the mix as well. Fabian Sommer, who you know better as Suma on Twitter, writing up a preview for the Patriots and Chiefs game. Christian Pina writing up a preview for the UFC event this weekend, the first one on ESPN. Danny Vorgs' NFL power ratings are 58% lifetime over at BangTheBook.com. He's got thoughts on side, total, and some player props here for this weekend. Kyle Hunter's daily college basketball picks, Parker Michaels' daily NHL picks, these videos on our YouTube page, new edition of Bang the Book Radio today, where I chatted with Kyle Hunter about college hoops, Christian Pina about that UFC card, and then Brent from DSI Sportsbook, the head risk manager down there, telling us about what's going on with the bet counts for these games, where some sharp actions come in, all that type of stuff. So, great edition of Bang the Book Radio today. Fantastic content on our front page on a daily basis, but we've really taken it up a notch here this week in anticipation of these championship games and that UFC event here. So, speaking of these two championship games, a couple things I want to mention right off the top. Number one, if you're looking for value in these two lines, you're probably not going to find it. These should be the two sharpest lines of the season without a doubt. You've got four teams that were the four highest scoring offenses in the NFL. Very public teams, very popular teams. Teams that you certainly want to keep a very close eye on over the course of the season if you're an odds maker and a risk manager. So you got to think overall, these lines are exactly where they should be. So for a lot of bettors out there, unless you've got significant conviction on a side or total, you should be looking for alternative ways to bet this game based on how you expect the game to go, based on the game flow, based on what matchups you expect these coaches to exploit. I'll talk about that a little bit later here in this video. But as far as the line movement for these two games go, the Rams and Saints NFC Championship Game down in New Orleans. New Orleans 3-point favorite, total 56.5. I am pretty surprised that thus far we have not seen that sharp action I expected on the under. But really when you think about it, they don't have to tip their hands too early. They can wait until limits are maxed out over the weekend. I would fully anticipate seeing that sharp move probably on Saturday, maybe as early as Friday night. But I would expect that sharp move on the total in the NFC Championship Game to hit here sometime soon and drive this thing down into probably the 55 or 54.5 range where I think it'll close. We'll see what public bettors opt to do with this game, but I do think sharp bettors will be going under the total. Yes, the first game was 45-35. Yes, there was almost 1,000 yards of offense in that game. But when you look at the body of work for these two teams over the last several weeks, not a whole lot from Jared Goff. You know, Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson running the rock has been very profitable for the Rams backers here, and really for the Rams as well, which is why they're in this position. The Saints, they don't do a ton of downfield throwing with Drew Brees. A lot of possession type stuff to Michael Thomas. Maybe Ted Ginn takes the top off the defense at some point, but a lot of possession stuff, a lot of Kamara and Ingram. I would expect the same here in this game. So I do like the under. I think that's my favorite play of the weekend here. Under in the Rams-Saints game. If you find a 57, grab it there. If it's 56.5, get it there. Because I do think this number will definitely go down. Now, as far as the side goes, I am a little bit surprised to see a lot of the 3.5s taken off the board here. I do think that the Superdome, at least worth the full 3 in the playoffs. I think you could make a very strong case for 3.5. I know some people have made a case for 4. If it's 4, I don't think the Rams are a favorite on a neutral against the Saints. So I would say it's probably 3, then you kind of go from there with it. But, you know, as far as this game goes from a side standpoint, I lean a little bit towards New Orleans. You know, obviously the more experienced quarterback. You would certainly think that the Saints would be in a little bit better of a position here at home, you know, with the better defense, with the more experienced quarterback, with the more experienced head coach. You know, I think Sean McVay is a very good head coach, but, you know, obviously we haven't really seen him in this role before. Last week, the Rams just won that game on the ground. You know, Sean McVay didn't have to make a whole lot of decisions in that game. Last year, outfoxed by Dan Quinn and the Falcons. how does he perform this year against Sean Payton and a veteran coaching staff? Maybe Wade Phillips is the X factor here, but as far as I'm concerned for this game, I think the total is the way to look. I lean very slightly to the Saints. Now, as far as the second game goes, the AFC Championship game between Kansas City and New England, you've got Kansas City a 3-point favorite, pretty much market wide, 3 flat, minus 110. Total on this game in the 55.5 range. Of course, we saw some early weather-related movement on the total for this one with a forecast that included some snow, at least on Saturday. Very bitter cold on Sunday. Well, the weather forecast has changed a little bit for this one, so now we're seeing some of that over money creep back into the market. I would prefer the over in this game, but I think there are alternative ways to play it. We'll talk about that here in a couple of seconds. As far as the side goes, I got to look at Kansas City in this situation. They're the faster team. They've got a quarterback that can stretch the field a little bit more. I think the Chiefs can be a little bit more creative offensively than the Patriots can. I think for the Patriots, you just really try to limit those big plays, maybe get into Tom Brady's kitchen a little bit. The Patriots, not as good of a pass rush as the Chiefs had during the season. The Patriots really just try to limit those big plays, like to play the field position game. I don't think either team turns the football over a whole lot here. So I do think that you force both of these quarterbacks to go the distance of the field. And I think because Kansas City can be a little bit more creative with that skill set of Patrick Mahomes, I do think the Chiefs are the side here. Among the two sides, I would probably say that, or among the two games, I should say, I would say I probably favor the Chiefs side a little bit more than the Saints side. If you have to play the sides on this game, if you're in some sort of playoff pool or full season NFL pool, something like that. But I think a lot of the value in both of these games comes from tapping into the derivative and the player props market. So looking at the AFC Championship game in particular, Tom Brady last week, not really forced to throw the football down the field. And really this season overall, hasn't thrown the football down the field a whole lot. I think this game for the Patriots is about Sony Michel. I think they have to have success running the football with Sony Michel, whether they go off tackle or between the tackles here. His yardage total 75.5. I think you go over that because if New England's in position to lead this game, they're gonna rely heavily on Michel. And even if they're not, I still think that they have to run the football a little bit here. Maybe get some chunk plays up against some late game zone defense or something like that running the football. So I think that the Patriots will rely on the run. I know you've got Tom Brady. Maybe they've been saving Tom Brady's bullets for this game. I don't know. But I think Sony Michel is a focal point, particularly here against the Chiefs defense that ranked last in the NFL in yards per carry allowed. Excuse me. And also, too, I think another good prop bet for this game, and if you like the over, and I think a lot of people will like the over now that the weather forecast is improving, something like Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns makes a lot of sense. You can find that at even money out there. If you're going to get a shootout, you're probably not going to get a 3-touchdown game from Damian Williams. You may get a Tyreek Hill rushing score or something like that, but I think you're going to see Patrick Mahomes have to move the ball vertically on this Patriots defense, take some shots down the field to Tyreek Hill, soften up some throwing lanes for Travis Kelce. I think the Chiefs need to be aggressive through the air in this game, which would give Patrick Mahomes a good chance of scoring some points. So if you like the over, instead of taking that 55.5 and maybe worrying a little bit about Tom Brady and the arm strength that's left there, maybe you do something from a player prop standpoint with, Tyreek Hill over receptions, Travis Kelce over receptions, Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns. Something like that, I think, makes a lot of sense here in this situation because you want to look at game flow. Again, like I said, there's no value on this game with -3 as the spread for both of them and then a total in the mid-50s. These are exactly where those numbers should be. You're probably not going to outfox the odds makers, the risk managers, and the other people out there in the betting markets. It's a very efficient market for these two games. Where there's less efficiency is in the derivative and the player prop market. So I think that's what you want to attack here. You look at the first game, for example, I think we see some more Mark Ingram here. You can run on the Rams front. We know that. We've seen a lot of people run on the Rams here so far this season. So if you're Sean Payton, use Mark Ingram. Let Mark Ingram eat a little bit. Then you open up some play action stuff or, maybe you've got a linebacker that cheats up against the run. Then you got Breeze to just lay one in there to Michael Thomas over the top. I think you want to look for Mark Ingram to have some success here for the Saints. Maybe it's Alvin Kamara. Maybe you play both of them and see what happens there, depending on the juice. But I think you've got two teams that really do want to establish the run and run the football a lot in that NFC Championship game, which leads me into some derivative stuff. I think the first half under makes a ton of sense in that game because why would the Rams want to put themselves in a position to possibly be down 14 or 17 points at halftime if Jared Goff struggles in his first playoff road start? We could very easily see that be the case. I mean, this is a tough environment, going to be very, very loud in the Superdome. Run the football. If you need Jared Goff, use him in play action, use him in the second half when you maybe don't have the luxury of running the football a ton, but you don't put this game in Jared Goff's hands. I really don't think that you do that early on here if you're Sean McVay. So, with that in mind, and probably a long scripted drive from both of these teams in the first quarter, or with their first possessions anyway, first half under in that NFC Championship game makes a lot of sense. Meanwhile, Kansas City and New England, scripted drives, I think both of those teams will have good game plans at the outset. Two very, very smart head coaches in Belichick and Reed. I look at the first quarter over in the AFC Championship game because I think both teams do move the football in chunks until this game settles down a little bit. So the derivative market, the player prop market, something you absolutely want to look to use to your advantage here because there's very little value on side and total. And I do like the under in the NFC Championship game and the Chiefs a little bit more than the other options for the full game. But again, I think derivatives and player props are where it's at for this weekend in the NFL. I'm Adam Burke from BangTheBook.com.